Hey, guys and girls, welcome back to the Bar Talk podcast. Hope you're really excited and really keen because I'm going to jump straight into it because right now I have on the line with me a gentleman, a Scotsman actually. Don't hold that against him. Calling all the way from the Alice, so our first Territorian on the podcast. So he's just come out with his recent EP, Petrichor, which we played the title track from way back in one of the earlier episodes, and we pondered over how good of a name that is for an EP. So I thought we'd better get him in and chat about how the hell he comes up with these good names. Please welcome him. It's Colin Lillie.
Daniel, how are you? It's nice to be here. Nice to be here on the wavelengths of the internetium. Internet M. Yeah, I liked. Yes.
It's the new M. You know, radio does have a tendency, and you know the offshoots of that. And podcast really is an offshoot of radio. I know that, like, you know, yeah, the old joke goes, "I got a face for radio." Ha ha ha! Boom crash. I know you can't really make that joke with podcasts because you think of someone like some of the most famous podcasters in the world, like AKA Joe Rogan. They actually film themselves doing it, so you can't. That joke doesn't quite travel, but the concept's the same. You know, two or more idiots sitting in front of a mic chatting to each other. Basically, what anyone can do. It's just that, you know, well, not in my case, but like in the professional case, you actually get money from it. So, I mean, what's the logic behind that, eh?
Yeah, well, I don't know. That's why I write songs, because if you want to see my face, you have to come to a gig, and there's not much of that going on right now. So maybe this is why I'm doing a podcast for you, because I've got a face for a podcast. Okay.
No, we're going to be putting up promo pictures and everything. So, yeah, you want to put it that way? You've got a magnificent face. It's got years and years of experience in it. I mean, a beard like yours just doesn't come overnight. As they say, Rome wasn't built in a day. A beard wasn't grown overnight. You know? Well,
you know, I've had a bit of a trim since that photograph was taken.
Oh,
but yeah, I'm growing it back. I decided I would have a bit of a trim since we've been in this crazy COVID thing. So, but by the time I'm back on the road, it will be back to its magnificent self. Like, you know.
It's still there. Like, I'm having a look at some of your newer pictures and vids you've put up. Like, it's still a decent bit of scrub going on there. Like, no,
it's still not the beard.
I suppose after you've come out of like you were really going for like the late 1800s bushranger look. For some of the promo pictures I can see when the EP came out. When did you first grow your first beard? Actually, because that's a good question. I want to know where you thought, right, these follicles that just won't stop. I'm just sick and tired of shaving and having a smooth chin. Where did the inspiration come for a good old fashioned Victorian era beard?
Well, the story is that when my mother gave birth to me, the doctor says, "I'm not sure if I should put him on the boob, Mrs. Lillie, or give him a banana. He's that hairy," you know. So I guess I've always had some form of facial hair since I was probably 17. But you know the beard itself. It wasn't until I'd say late 2015 that I decided to. How do we do it? How do we say get it sculptured by a professional follicle designer? You know, so.
A designer beard. And this year's season, we have the apartment style, and it's like just little windows in your beard. Have you ever seen those? I know there's a competition usually held in Germany or something weird like that, where they have beard sculpting competitions, and people will put really, really high levels of detail into, you know, shaping the follicles, adding curls, putting the right, you know, type of Brill cream or whatever they use, and they come up with these beautifully sculpted pieces of art on their chins. Have you seen the pictures?
Yeah, that is like they have the Beard World Championship, and you have the different kinds of beards, and then you have the freestyle, which is like whatever. But yeah, I don't think I've not got the patience for that. So you know, I just could not. I've not got the patience for it. That's so stop.
You got enough. You got enough patience to put out a phenomenal. Well, I mean, I was going to say you got enough patience to put out a phenomenal 4-track EP, but then again. I mean, I suppose you're right, because if you really had patience, you'd wait and bring out the triple album, wouldn't you?
Yeah, well, like, you know, I guess for me, I'm doing it in stages. Like, you know, I've brought out a full album, some singles, an EP, and I've got a new album coming. So, you know, it's all about taking your time. And I guess it's a bit like, you know, why do everything at once when you can take your time and do it now and again, like, you know, just like, you know, that, what was it? The chap from Spotify, the CEO, said that if people are unhappy with the fact that they're not making money from Spotify, they should do more work.
Please put out as many songs that you can claim as much 3-cent royalties off. Wink, wink.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, yeah, we can make music just like that. We won't go through the painful experience of trying to write the song, express the song, record the song, and promote the song, and then we'll just go and do it straight away again. So, yeah, the beards are exactly the same. There's no rush. It will come, you know?
Do you consider, and I haven't asked this question in a while because I do like to tend to reserve it to a lot of artists that were around, like, you know, in the times before streaming and that, but in your own experience, do you think streaming is a net positive or net negative thing in terms of listening to music and being a musician?
I guess I'm lucky enough that, you know, like for me, I didn't start making music until later in life, and that was streaming the main thing. But I guess we have, when it comes to streaming, I guess the attitude is that, you know, that it's it's muchly a thing that, you know, is here now to stay. And I really, you know, and my ego says, and this is me being on, my ego says, I want more streams, give me more streams so I can get money. But, you know, I'm very much a live performance kind of character, and I love being in front of an audience. And that's, for me, is, I feel that the stream is the gateway to have people to come and watch me. I bet, like, it's a gateway drug for Colin Lillie. You stream, and then you come to a gig, and then you walk away with a CD, an album, a T-shirt, and, you know, so it's that. But, you know,
all the merch. I want cigarette lighters. I want towels with my beard on it. I want the beard. I want pieces of my cut-off hair on these, like, exclusive sets of towels. So, like, when you dry yourself, like you're being dried by Colin.
I'm very much, I don't know how to take the streams, to be honest. I just let them. I think streams now are more for, you know, you listen to music. The beautiful thing about the different, like Spotify and Apple Music and that, is that you can dive in to new music, old music. I think the sad thing is that you no longer sit and go to a party like when I was younger, and you would be able to go through somebody's record collection and discover new records that way. You know, you would be able to go through their vinyl. Whereas you can say, oh, can I go through your record collection? And they go, no, it's on my phone. And so you're going through something. It's much more a private thing, much more private.
I find, and I guess this is my generation, because the generation I'm in is the resurgent generation, the hippies, the nostalgia wankers, as I call them, where it's a status symbol. It's like, I have all 4 original Led Zeppelin albums, 1 to 4, on vinyl. Bow down to my godlike power. And it's just like, oh my God, he is the devil, he is the Jesus incarnate. You know, and it's just, it is a status symbol. It's like, look at my record collection. Look how big it is and long. The shaft of this shelf takes a lot of weight. Like it's like comparing manhood sizes these days, like the size of your record collection. Look how long the shelf is.
I have a conversation with my boys, and I say to them, look, you know, we used to queue for when a new release would come out. We'd queue in the street. We'd wait at the record store and we'd wait for that album to be released, like, you know. And it was the same for when you were going to book tickets for a gig. You had to be there quick to get the tickets, or you'd lose out on tickets. Nowadays, you do it all online. And it's great, you can do it all online and you can get everything online. But there's just something that I think with a release of, when you're releasing music, I think a lot of releases can get lost because there is so much now. Whereas you would go to a record store and you could physically spend a good couple of hours discovering the new releases and physically holding them. And I guess that's just an age thing, you know. And when the generation who are part of the whole digital download world and stuff, and the whole Spotify world, when that changes in the next 10 and the new thing comes along, we'll hear them going, do you not remember when it used to be like this? So it's just progress, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. You remember the days when you used to burn your CDs and then give someone a mixed CD?
Yeah, that's just the world. It's just next that'll be in our head.
Yeah,
and you'll be making your playlist by blinking or something. It'll be something crazy like that. You know?
True. Let's actually talk a bit about your music, because I mean that was the original reason why we got you on. Let's face it.
Yeah.
Tell us a bit about the EP, because back in 2016 you released your debut album Glass Homes. Which did relatively well, and then now you've released this EP, and you've mentioned again you're going to have another album coming out. So really, this is like the slice of ham in between the two hefty hand cut pieces of bread, I guess.
Yeah.
So, what was the idea then of releasing an EP in between two releases?
Well, I had I was performing at Woodford just at the beginning of this year, just at the end of last year, and I was heading across to New Orleans for the International Folk Alliance conference, and I wanted to have something that was going to be unique for Woodford. And it'd been 2 years that I'd been probably touring solid, and I was doing a lot of touring with Diesel. And one weekend we were in Sydney, and I got invited to go to Mark's house and look at his studio and stuff. And we just got chatting. It'd be good if we could record something. Like, it would be up for recording something. And basically, I thought, well, how about I just do an EP that would be just really for the Woodford audience, and it would give me a chance to work with Mark in the studio. And so that was the main reason for doing the EP. There was nothing. It was just basically to go to Woodford with something that I could basically say, this is uniquely for yous. And then it went all the way. When I went to New Orleans, I took it over there, and it was just to have something that was in between, because the new album's coming out. So it was the whole reason for doing it was to take something to Woodford. So get to work with Diesel.
So, yeah, true. You must have had a bit of a fangirl moment there, for sure.
Big fan moment. Huge.
It's really the aim, isn't it? When you become successful enough to go, I want a home studio that's fancy enough that other musicians will want to come and record with me, isn't it?
Yeah, I was blown away with just I think the beautiful thing was that Mark saw something. Like, I enjoyed, a bit like me, I always finding new things like that people, and within people, so like with the kids or with friends or with other musicians and other artists, that they don't see themselves. And Mark saw something in me that he thought was worthy enough to be in his studio and use his guitars and him to put his magical touches on.
That's nice. It really must feel satisfying. And as a songwriter myself, you do feel satisfied when somebody hears a song you play, somebody who you like as a musician hears a song you play and go, I really like that lyric you put in there. I really like that lick that you wrote for the guitar. So do you find that was a bit like that experience when you were touring and playing with him?
I think what happened was, I guess you don't expect I don't expect that when I am touring with the people I've been lucky enough to support, it becomes much more of a deeper connection that you have when you spend a longer period of time with them. And, with Mark, it became, there was an element of truth and honesty that Mark was open with, and I love that. I love transparency. I just love honesty. Regardless of where it comes from, it can come from a 3-year-old or it comes from a 93-year-old. If somebody's honest with you, then there's integrity there that and Mark just basically said, yeah, I'd love to do some work with you. And then I'm turning around and going, these are great songs. That's the magic.
You mentioned that whole thing about honesty and whether it's from a 3-year-old or a 93-year-old. I mean, I know you're just pulling numbers out of a hat there when it comes to the ages, but there is a sort of element of truth to the terms of it, that the honesty that you get from a toddler or a young child is very similar to the honesty you get from the elderly. And it's got to have something to do with the fact that, like, the mindset of you got nothing to lose. When you're that young, I think you don't realize the sort of gravity of what you say half the time. Whereas when you are at that age where you're at the end of where you're towards your golden years or whatever, you realize that, well, I really don't have anything to lose. I haven't got a career writing it. I've lived what I've got to live, and there's this experience that I've got to express. So I don't know whether you found that experience as well, just generally speaking. But have you noticed that? Like there's a very similar sort of honesty between the old and young age group?
Yeah, well, like I think for me, it's been more about the fact that I was somebody that carried a lot of BS in my life, and then I had to rediscover what it actually means to be honest with oneself.
Yeah.
And then once you realise that and you have lived that, then you are more prone to seeing it around you more than you were before, you know? I guess it's that thing where don't believe the BS, because that's when you end up becoming a bit of an asshole, like, you know? So,
you
and for a long time I was...
Yeah, the longer you believe it.
Yeah, and I guess for a long time I was the asshole, like, you know, and when I realised that I was an asshole, I had an opportunity to change things. And then when you do that, honestly, I think to be honest in life, to be truthful to yourself and being able to be honest around others, then that's something that, you know, and I don't always get it right. I can still be an asshole, but, you know, I think it's how you step up after that and realising that. So, yeah, I think I see more honesty in the world now than I used to, because I guess I'm looking for it more, you know.
Guess it's better to be an honest asshole than a bullshitting asshole.
Yeah, that's it.
At least they can't say you're lying.
Yeah, that's it. And if they do say you're lying, then you go, well, let's have a conversation about it then, like, you know.
Nice. We'll dwell on that a bit because the album sort of evokes a lot of emotions, and I can sort of tell that you were trying to show this sort of level of honesty in the songs that you've picked on the EP. Mm-hmm. So it's very much an uplifting. I've got a very much an uplifting sort of theme going on throughout the whole thing, that there is sort of this beauty even in the simplest of things. Like in Petrichor, you mentioned it. It's, as I think some of us know already, it's a word meaning the smell of rain, which was a word coined by the CSIRO back, I think it was like, 10 years ago when they were researching it.
Yep.
And it's like, it's about finding that beauty in something as obscure and as simple as the smell you get when the rain comes.
Yeah.
So I'm just using that as an example, but we dwelled on this last time when we did originally play Petrichor back in like one of the earlier episodes. So is that really what you were trying on here compared to your album that you put out a few years ago? So that raw, stripped back honesty sort of reflected in the instrumentation as well?
Yeah, well, the EP itself, as I said, I've been on the road solid for 2 years, with only going home for short periods of times just to say hello, yes, I'm alive, and yes, I'm still your husband, and I'm still your dad and stuff. Yeah. And then, so the EP itself for me, there was a feeling that because I'd been on the road so much that I was missing out on giving across some of my wisdom and truth, because our kids were growing up, they're moving on. Like, we've got one son who's at university in Newcastle, another one who's at boarding school in Sydney, another one who's here, and another one who's with his mum, like, what do you call it? And, you know, so there's that element of feeling I was missing more. So the EP itself was me trying, I guess, to be present whilst not being present, and it was me like the song Down the Road on the EP is all about me basically saying, you know, I'll see you down the road, but you know, remember there's these things that like I've experienced, and don't be afraid of that. Like Petrichor itself is definitely a song about, you know, being away from Alice Springs and then smelling the rain and then realizing just what Alice Springs actually reminds me of. And it's about, you know, and knowing that the boys are leaving, but they need to know that there's magic within who they are, and they don't ever forget it, because it means that you, like, you know, you'll always have something there around you. You know, and Broken's all about the idea that it's okay to feel broken, you know, being a solo artist and traveling always on your own, and then meeting up with whoever you're supporting, or going to the venue and meeting somebody who's supporting you. You know, that idea that, you know, sometimes you can second guess yourself and you don't communicate, you don't talk about your feelings, you don't talk about the things that are so about opening up. And then Hard Times is about what I was observing as on the road and how I was seeing Australia dealing with the struggles it was having with the fires and the droughts, and how I was observing people communicate with one another. That, like my wife and I, we had a conversation, and she said, look, I said, God, Australia's going through some real hard times. And she just said, well, hard times only slow you down. And from that song went from there. So it's very much an EP about trying to be present whilst doing what I do as a job and doing my work. And there's definitely an element of that there. Not that boys listen to my music much, but
I don't want to listen to Dad's lanky tunes. Not enough drum machines.
Yeah.
Needs more auto-tune, Dad.
Yeah.
It's you can. There is that honesty there. I can definitely tell. So yeah, it is a really good EP. Well, might play one of the tracks now. Now, Broken is not the most recent single, but the one that you released before that.
Yes.
So
yes.
Yeah, so you mentioned it's a bit about that. We'll play it now. I see you released a little video for that too.
The video.
I'm not going to lie. I haven't watched it yet because I only just realised right before we chatted. I'll watch it after the interview. But it looks like you got sort of like a split screen going on there with a few different angles of your luxurious
but like
facial hair follicles.
The clip was something that myself, I was lucky enough, most of the clips I've done have been done with Eden Mulholland. And he came up with an idea one time. He says, you're crazy on your Instagram the way that, it'd be really good if we could do a clip. And we were just waiting for the right song to come along, and it just so happened we were all in lockdown. We were all, we couldn't do normal clips. And I said, well, how about this is the time to do the clip that you always said that you thought would be a great idea. And it really, really works. I was so surprised on how well the clip works. It's got all aspects of life in the clip, and it just is. I was blown away with it. It's a bit of magical cleverness.
Some great guitar work. Good. I really like the lick that the song opens with. That's really cool. We may as well play it because I think you've pretty much ran it up. Because normally I would say, tell us a bit about the song, but you gave us a very nice rundown before, and I guess that's the advantage of only doing a 4-track EP. You get to talk about each song in depth.
Well, and I did that really quick so we can get into some of the serious conversation, like
Who's your favorite Kardashian?
The great thing about Broken is that, like, I honestly thought that getting Diesel to do be the producer, I thought I'd be able to get him to do some guitar work, and he went, no. Nothing. You're doing it all, and I just went, oh my goodness!
Being duped.
Yeah. He says, you've got me as a producer. You didn't pay me because I'd be more expensive if you wanted my guitar. So
I was actually about to say that. Is he going to charge double to play as well?
Was it? But he was, and which to be honest, I will ever be in his debt, because it was another, boost to know that someone like Mark believes that what I can do with a guitar is good. Like, I've always said I am a singer who plays guitar. I'm not a guitarist who sings.
Yeah.
So my guitar's always been there for the colour, to create the colour and make the story better of the song. And, he basically said, no, what you've got to offer is more than you give yourself credit for. So you'll do all the guitar work.
Don't overwork me.
Well, no, it was good.
let's play it, because it is a great track. It's Broken off the EP Petrichor. Folks, we'll be back real soon, before you know it, right here on the Bar Talk podcast. Do not go anywhere. Yeah, that was Broken by Colin Lillie off his brand new EP Petrichor, which is out now. Make sure you give it a listen after the episode has been finished. For those of you who are terrible at their memory, of course, I have Colin with me on the line right now, talking about all things Territorian and otherwise. Colin, are you still there?
I'm still here, Daniel.
Still standing.
Yes.
Just like Elton John.
Yeah,
I was going to say, you've been up in the arse for a few years now, but of course, as we've, I don't know if we mentioned at the start that your lavish Edinburgh. What do you call someone that's from Edinburgh? An Edinburghian?
Well, I'm from outside Edinburgh, so I'm known as someone from the sticks.
The sticks.
So like the sticks. So
I thought that was how a Jewish person calls it. Yeah, it sticks. We're like a stick. The sticks. No, unnecessary SCH. Sticks. So just outside of the city. I'm guessing that refers to anyone outside of the city.
Well, anybody I would say about 45 minutes outside. Anybody from the country, so you're from the sticks. So,
I didn't think Scotland was that big. I thought, 45 minutes you'd be in the ocean, regardless of what direction you go.
45 minutes from where I grew up, you would be in Stirling, and it was a different accent altogether. And then another 45 minutes from there, you would be in Glasgow, which is a completely different accent.
Oh, the classic Glaswegian accent, and I will not attempt it, but it's just so like even over here, there's a joke about the Glaswegian accent being so thick because isn't that where Billy Connolly's from?
Yeah, Billy Connolly's from Glasgow.
Yeah. It's just amazing. I know it's hard for me to comprehend coming from rural Australia, where it's like, regardless of where you go, it's largely the same accent outside of the cities. But
I don't know. Like, I can hear the differences when I go to Queensland, Victoria.
Yeah.
There's differences.
But you go 45 minutes. You go 45 minutes. They're basically your neighbour. Like,
yeah. Well, yeah. I guess. Yeah,
when you go 45 minutes, it's a
yeah.
totally different accent. It's just so hard to comprehend that there's just so many different ways of speaking in such a compact area. Yeah.
But I guess living in the desert, like, you go for a drive in 2 hours and like you're in somebody else's country if you want to go back and it's a different language group to another language group. So it's a bit like, you're going into like back home in Scotland, like you could drive for a few hours and you're in England and people in Newcastle and that have got a different accent as well. Like, so it's like, but yeah, right. Australia, you go for a drive for 45 minutes to your neighbour's property and they're still Australian, like, they've still got the Aussie accent.
Yeah. Yeah, that shared collectivism, we're still all the same, even if we might be, by distance quite far. Yeah. I want to learn a bit more about your own background because, you've been out here for quite a while now and you've pretty much only had your music career since you've come out here.
Yeah.
But tell us about your time in Scotland. Had you sung? Where did you start to learn how to sing? Was it only when you came out to Australia or were you singing as a kid?
Well, like for me, like, when I was a kid, when I was really young, I used to sing a lot at church. I used to go to church to sing.
The classic church choir.
Yeah, and there was no real choir at that time. But then when I got to school, I managed to get in the school choir.
Okay.
But then life for me took me on a different path altogether. Like, I guess learning to sing for me was being free. But, I was too much, I don't know, like I got involved in the things that you partake in when you're supposed to be over the age of 18. I started that very much at a younger age.
Yeah.
And I got hooked in it, I guess, because of the fact that it was a bit more easier to do that. So for singing for me was always a way of escaping until I could no longer escape what I was running away from, so. And then it disappeared and then I ended up in the desert and I couldn't run away from myself anymore. And I went back to singing. I guess I always wanted to be a singer and a performer. I was always singing as a young kid. But again, I just got passion for something else and it just basically took my life in a different direction. But I'm a great believer that if you're meant to be on a road and you will rediscover that road or that road you'll realise you've always been on that road. It just took a bit longer for you to focus on where you're going.
At what point did you realise you had to get out of, well, not get out, that might be the wrong phrase. At what point did you realise you had to, I guess, expand your horizons and move to a different country? Was there something that triggered that?
Well, for me, when I had a very aggressive father. My father was an alcoholic and I had a disabled mother. And for me, my life growing up was all about being a carer and having to dodge somebody who dealt with their anger in a very violent way. I grew up at a very young age realizing the difference between a violent man and an angry man, and basically when I was old enough, I had a younger brother, but when I was old enough, I would run away, I just try to get away. And I moved to a different part of Scotland when I was 18. and then I was on the move from that point on. Never really comfortable. And then I was lucky enough to meet a lady who basically told me to write, and I lived in Ireland for a while, and I just started writing, and she wanted to come to Australia, and I went, I don't want to go to Australia, that's awfully far away. It's really far away. And
too many spiders.
Yeah. And but the pub's here, so why do we have to go there? That was my attitude. Was the pub's here, why do we have to go there? And she was like, basically, because I want to go and visit. And when we came here, I just fell in love. When we did the drive from Gold Coast to Central Australia, just something happened in me, and I decided that things had to be different. And I sang for the first time really in public with a guitar in Alice Springs, and that's when it happened. That's when because people were like, where's that voice come from? And I said, I don't know. And, and I just took what I'd been writing and just started putting them into, I guess, it was my time to be a musician. It was my time to be a songwriter. It was my time to make changes.
Yeah.
Other people do it the other way. They become the songwriter, the performer, then become the drug addict, alcoholic, and die, So I had become the drug addict, alcoholic, almost died, and then became the singer-songwriter. So I guess I got all as we were saying earlier, I got all the bullshit out early and flipping just got on with life then,
Yeah. So rather than starting drama to save your career, you saved your career by stopping the drama, so to speak.
Yeah, well, I started a career. I went, oh my goodness, what do I do now? And it just so happened that I was sitting with a guitar and writing, and people went, that's what you should be doing.
So, because I'm interested, because you wouldn't think Alice Springs would be the first place you'd choose to move to to come out to Australia to. And I'm guessing you wouldn't have known much about Alice Springs, if at all, before you had come out. So what was the main reason then for picking that part of the country rather than one of one of the main cities, one of the places you might have been aware of?
Well, I came for a year with the Irish girlfriend I had at the time.
Yeah.
And we arrived in Melbourne the very first day we arrived, and I was wearing my kilt and I was
really trying to blend in.
Yeah, I was wearing my kilt, and this old fella walked up to me and he said, "You'll be Scottish then," and then just walked away. And I went, "Oh, that's quite cool." But yeah, Melbourne, and then went from Melbourne and did Adelaide, and we went up to Cairns and went down to Sydney, and then back up to Brisbane and stuff. And but then we drove from Gold Coast after buying a car and surfers, and drove all the way across to Alice Springs in the last 3 months of that year's visa. And something happened. I'd never heard it. I knew of Alice Springs, and I knew of the central desert of Australia, because you would watch David Attenborough talk about certain aspects, and as you said, spiders, crocodiles, beasties, and snakes. So
gotta watch out for it's the sun visor. That's what they always jump out of. I remember I was driving along once in a car that I hadn't cleaned in a while. It was my old parents' car, actually, and I found out later that there was it wasn't, because it was a huntsman that jumped out at me, because they don't spin webs, but that same week I had to clean off another cobweb up the back. But they jump out, and I nearly had a fucking heart attack. So I pulled over. It's like, get out of my car. This is my territory. Go find your home somewhere else. Flicked it out the window and quickly went. I was like, get out, putting as much distance between me and the spider. It was
So Alice Springs for me was a complete eye opener. And when the very first time I came to Alice, there'd been a lot of rain, so it was very green.
Okay.
And I was told, where's this red centre? Then I left.
This isn't the desert. I was duped.
This isn't desert. And then I left and went back to Ireland for a year. And I said to the girlfriend I had, the Irish girlfriend I had, was that I'm going to go back for a 3 month trip, because I want to go and visit everybody and see everybody who's pushing me to do this singing. And she went, I don't want to go back, so you go for 3 months. And then I went for 3 months, which turned into 6 months, which then has been 15 years. So I didn't see her again. I just didn't go back.
Babe, I swear I'll come back the end of this year. COVID, it's okay. It's just delayed me,
Yeah, and I broke her heart. That's one thing that, that's a regret. Well, not a regret. That's something that I will forever carry with me for the way that relationship ended, you know. But, you know, it's Alice Springs is probably one of the most magical places in the world. I mean, there's nowhere else in the Northern Territory, and I know everybody loves their state and their territory and they love where they're from and stuff, but the Northern Territory is one of these places where no matter what you think you come here for, it will find the real reason why you're here, you know?
So do you reckon it was a combination of both the people and the landscape then that sort of drew you in? Or was it one over the other? Or something else entirely? I don't know.
It was definitely the landscape. The landscape for me, like coming from Scotland, you know, you go and look at beautiful scenery and you go, there's a mountain there and there's a tree there and there's a castle there and the eagle flies over and it's all beautiful. Oh, wonderful. Look at that. Yeah. You know, there's a loch in that. But, you know, the beauty here is something.
There's Nessie.
Yeah. But the beauty here is something complete. Like that. I've never been anywhere in the whole entire world, and I've done a bit of traveling that, you know, you could actually, when you're driving, or you can actually see the curvature of the planet. You see the curvature of the planet, and then you turn around and go, oh my goodness, I am just a dot. I am a dot on something more, and it's whatever fears and anxieties and stresses I had about what my purpose in this world was, it was irrelevant at that point because I was just a dot, that like a million billion other dots. Like when we look at the stars, it's another billion. You know, it's so
weird because that I've heard that way of thinking before. I argument, I guess, or you know, this idea that when you realize the true insignificance of your own self, that you find this sort of inner peace. Like I know, I don't know if you're aware of the show Rick and Morty, but the creators of that show hold a very similar philosophy in that meaninglessness and in insignificance, you find the true meaning of your existence in the end, which sounds like an oxymoron, but it kind of makes sense when you put it that way, that it sort of drives you to bring meaning into that closer sphere that you're involved with. So it's interesting to see that reflected in a totally different art form, such as music, and in a totally different setting as well. Yeah. So it is quite a universal concept, I guess. Yeah. Was related word, not intended, but sure.
Yeah. No, but it totally, like, for me, it was about, and it wasn't until I came back that second time, and me basically trying to live the life that I had on the other, the life I had, and realizing this is not why you're here. This is not why you're not here to live the same life. You've got an opportunity to do things differently. You've got an opportunity to be different and do something that is you. Then things changed. And I mean, like, if I can be honest, that. What a load of cobs bollocks,
No, that's the best thing. You don't come on, Colin. You've just ruined the whole point. You're not supposed to mention it's cobs wallop. Now you've just lost everyone's interest.
That's not
well, you're bullshit. I think you're bullshit. I'm not going to listen to a word you say now.
Yeah. Like, what you call it? But for me, and I'm on about for me, that is the truth.
Yeah,
like I would never have imagined that something like space, as in being in such a wide open space, would have made me become more introspective towards myself.
Yeah,
because the attitude was I was more afraid of what was going on inside, so I made it all about what you could see on the outside. But then when I started to realize that it's all within the inside of who I am, that the real changes can happen, was when I actually saw what was going on the outside,
Yeah.
And that's and sometimes I talk about this stuff and I go, people must think I'm some kind of weirdo.
No, they just listen to the accent and go, it's all right, he's Scottish. We'll let it pass.
Exactly. Let's blame it on the fact he's from Scotland. That's okay, like what they call it, But it's and I am and will forever be 150% grateful for the fact that I was able to live in a place like Alice Springs to discover who I really am, like, you know, who I really am, and who I can, and how I can be the best version of me, you know. And I guess that's all we really try our best to do in life, is to be the best version. And, you know, I've been the villain in many people's stories, but you know, it's how I get up in the morning now and try to be a better version of that. Then I'm doing okay, you know.
Yeah, true. It's a really, really good way of thinking about it, I guess. We've mentioned before, I think, that you said that you will eventually be putting out a second album as a follow-up to your 2016 debut.
Yes.
I'm guessing, I was just wondering, as far as, you know, how your music sounds, because this, I imagine, is going to be the EP that you've put out is a lot more stripped back than what you'll expect the next album to be. Is that right, or do you want to continue with this more acoustic version of your songs moving forward?
Well, the next album is completely different from anything else I've ever done.
Right. Okay.
It's a lot more. I've been working with Jamie Travaskis up in Brisbane, and it's a lot darker. It's a lot emotive. The songwriting's there. There's the moments of optimism in the writing's there, but the music, the musicality behind it, the arrangement behind it is much more of that darker. Like, you know, I'm digging deeper into who I am, and I'm observing.
It's all right.
And absorbing more from my world around me, it becomes much more. So there's definitely. I mean, the EP with Mark, the idea of that was to be a strip back and tell the story and vocal. This is much more about the colour of the story, I think, and it's it's just a growing process, I guess. I don't want to be known for making the same music over and over and over again, like, you know.
No, that's fair enough too. So I'm guessing. So with the EP songs, of course. Were they songs that you had been playing live quite a bit beforehand?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. When we went to the studio, Mark said, right, I sent him a file with a couple of songs, and he went, oh yeah, they do that. We'll look at that one, look at this one. So we had about 5 songs that we were going to look at in the studio. Yeah. And then when we got into the studio, Mark went, well, these are pretty new, eh? And I went, Mark, these are completely new. These have been written while we've been on the road or whatever in the past couple of months. And he went, really? And I went, yeah, like there was only one song and it didn't make it on the EP, but, and he went, oh, this is quite exciting, you know? But we're talking about possibly doing album number 3 together. So, you know, after this, which will be quite exciting.
Don't put too many plans ahead. Like then you'll never get round to everything. Jeez.
Oh, no, I will.
I like that dedication. I like it. So with the new album that's going to be coming out, are you bringing a similar approach in terms of your songwriting, writing songs specifically for it? Or is it going to be songs that you've had out for a while, like played for a while?
Oh, well, the new album is recorded. We're just in the finishing touches, the finishing mixes and that. And, you know, so we recorded that a while ago, and it was just, you know, there's a few, hopefully I'll get over to Brisbane to do some just overdubs and stuff. But yeah, these songs, again, I think I've found that writing album number 2 has been a lot more work as a writer, because I feel I put a lot more pressure on myself because of how Glass Homes was received by so many different reviews in that. You know, it got some, and then with the way that Petrichor has been and received as well. Like I think I put a lot more pressure on myself, more pressure than I really needed to do with album number 2. But and because we've moved in a different direction, so it has been a lot harder to write. It was a lot harder to write, I guess, or the arrangements were a lot harder, I guess, because it was a different way of looking at things. So
would I be right in saying that if there was no pressure on you, that you would find it easier to write?
If there was no pressure on me.
Yeah, like if you were a total blank slate, nobody had ever heard any of your songs, would you find it a lot easier to put out an album's worth of tunes?
Well, I guess they say that album number 1 is that purging album. So that's a lifetime of songs that's coming out. And then album number 2 is seeing how well you're mastering the art of songwriting. And then album number 3 is that you hopefully have mastered how songs are written and how your songs are written. So I don't know. I think for me, I need to, if I don't have things to write, like if I don't have the space, like, you do all the different things. You sit there, you meditate, or you go away, you have new experiences. Things go away in the back of your head. I write things. So I don't think, unfortunately, I'm one of these human beings whose brain never really switches off. So I would never really have a blank sheet. I'm always doing something. I'm always writing a song. I'm always either playing something. I'm either writing. I don't really have a blank slate, if that makes sense.
Yeah, there's always stuff going on that's influencing what you're going to write down.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's cool. That's good to know. Well, I'm certainly looking forward to seeing more stuff come out. Now tell me a bit about what's going to be happening in the next couple of months too, because you've got a bit of stuff planned in the works, don't you?
Yeah, hopefully in the next couple of, so by September, the end of September, hopefully I'll be in Brisbane. I've got a few performances in Brisbane lined up. Hopefully head across to the studio and get the overdubs finished for the album, release a new single at the end of September, and then look at releasing the album early 2021. And then by that time, fingers crossed, I hopefully will be touring that.
Hopefully we'll have things under control by then.
Yes.
Fingers crossed, touch wood,
Yeah. And then from that, I'm also, I was supposed to be heading to Canada. We were in talks after New Orleans to be going to Canada, the UK to be touring. So hopefully that will be back up and running, and I'll be getting that into that and getting that reworked and reshaped and tour back on the road again. And then possibly, who knows, do some more recording with some other people and then start working on album number 3 and who knows. I guess for me, I have my different stages of planning. I've got this, that, and then I'm lucky enough that people I've got around me kick me up the bum when they need something.
It is really good to have those people around, because sometimes you forget that you get too lazy. It's like, dang, you were supposed to do that this morning. It's like, oh.
Yes. And I can procrastinate a fair bit. I can procrastinate. I can pretend I'm doing a lot of work by working on one song for 4 weeks.
Yep.
And think I'm doing some. But yeah. And I'm looking forward. I'm looking forward to catching up with old friends and new friends. That's the biggest thing for me, is to catch up with old friends and new friends and sing and share and talk and have a cup of tea and coffee and just catch up, and hopefully catch up with you when Melbourne opens up. I'll come down and catch up with you guys.
Please do.
And say hi. Yeah.
I want to see, hopefully for the next tour. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah. With will the intention be to tour with a band, or will it just be solo, you strip back in an acoustic?
Yeah, well, that's the big question at the moment on how we get that. But being an independent artist, I guess it's always about funds. It's always about how we can invest what we have and how we have it. And I mean, there's different, I'm lucky enough to have different things in the pipeline happening and stuff, but at the same time, I'd love to tour with a band. I've never really toured with a band. I've had I've had a few gigs where I brought some musos from Alice Springs to do a couple of gigs around, and I had a band that I was working with in Queensland, and then I did one gig in the Wesleyan down in Melbourne.
Oh, where great I had venue.
Brilliant venue. And when I did my album release tour.
It's fun trying to walk down those stairs after you've had a few beers up there, because they haven't had the courtesy to install a lift yet. That would be. So you're walking down this like 150-year-old building. It's like, oh god, and it's like they don't think there's any rails. It's like you just got to try and make sure you don't trip. Yeah, it's a fun, good pub. Hope to be there soon again when everything opens up.
It's a great venue. And I've got another project that I do a bit of work with another guy, Raisin Moon. I've got a project called Shadows and Blue, which we do some stuff. So I keep myself busy. Yeah. But I'd love to be able to tour with a full band. So it's all about me working to getting, I guess, people to go, yeah, we should invest in this fella and allow him to showcase what he does with a full band. Hopefully it will be with a full band. If not, it'll be me, and that's how a lot of people enjoy seeing me perform, is just me and the songs. And sometimes I like that, but sometimes the songs need to be shared with a full band. And that's just about relationships and building relationships and gaining, and having people you can work with.
Does the Ned Kelly beard come back for the tour? That's the other question I want to know.
I'm hoping that the Ned Kelly beard will be back in a month. I'm feeling really naked. I've been struggling with it. Like
they don't know who I am without my big beard.
Which when John told me I was doing the interview, I says, "Are they wanting it with is it on Zoom or something?" And he goes, "No, it's just a phone." I went, "Oh, good."
Oh,
he
good.
says, "It was good."
No need to shower.
Yeah. Yeah, I can walk around the house naked. Wonderful.
You're about the only person I've come across that has actually reduced the amount of hair on their face in ISO. Most people have. I don't know if you saw the picture that Kevin Rudd put up a few weeks back. He's actually grown a beard.
Yeah, right.
I don't think any public photos have ever come out with a single hair on his chin, which I thought was really weird. And somebody commented and thought, well, things are tough when Kevin Rudd's got a beard.
Yeah, I did keep the beard growing, and it was growing, but it got to the point where it was like I did a live thing, and I just saw it, and I went, nah, I have to do something. This is just crazy. Like this is now like people will be calling me Mel Gibson or something. That's how after he got in trouble after saying the things he said, we had the wild beard. So yeah. It was just crazy beard. Like it didn't even look like a bush ranger. It looked more like a bush. I looked more like the talking bush for the Three Amigos. Just this big thing in the middle that was singing the singing bush.
It's like I keep my lunch in this side, and I got my pet bird in the other side. I don't know what TV show it was where it's like pulls out his pet bird. Oh no, it was that movie. It was that Artemis movie. It's like the Pirates one. He's like, "Where's Polly?" Yeah. It's like the dodo. He's like, "I keep doing. No one else will find her," and he just pulls it out of his beard.
we went to the vet with the dogs, and the vet was going to give me an injection. I was like, "Oh no, I'm the wrong one," and it was where he was going to test. He went to check my flipping temperature, and I says, "Where are you going with that?" So I said it was time to get a haircut, even though, and we've been able to do that up here because we're lucky enough that shops and that are open. So, and I am thinking about everybody in Melbourne and everywhere else that's been in lockdown that we've been lucky enough, and so I hope everybody is
those open spaces. Themselves. Those open spaces are good for something. But your thoughts are much appreciated, Colin.
No, I'm thinking about you all, and I'm looking forward to catching up with you all, and you can all tell me how crazy you became. I think I'd love people to discuss their craziness on Facebook. Just put their post. This is how crazy I am at the moment, and this is what I'm thinking. You
just wait to so everybody that's writing stuff now down here in Melbourne, all the bands just imagine the albums that are going to come out in like 12 months, 18 months time when they finally get around to recording them. I reckon we're going to see some real experimental shit go in.
Yeah, I think the writing's going to be amazing.
It's got nothing else to do,
No, it'll be great.
Thank you so much, Colin. It's been so much fun. I love a good laugh. Made my day so much happier. But congrats again on the EP, and really looking forward to what you've got coming out later this year. I'm definitely going to keep my ears peeled. Please tell us where we can find you on the social medias, where we can find your music. Like, have you got your website, all that sort of stuff?
Yeah. You can find me on colinlillie.com.au, and that's Lillie with an Lillie. And then I'm on Spotify, Apple Music. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram. I think a lot of people enjoy my Instagram because it's just at the moment I'm talking about foods, the unsung heroes of foods.
Okay.
Like things like jam and bread.
Yes,
we don't know the persons who basically came up with that. Genius.
Was it the sandwich was invented as a way so this like rich upper class lord could eat while he was playing poker? Like Lord sandwich or whatever.
But what was the name of the chef that came up with it? We don't know his name.
Yeah, true.
See, we know.
Rich people taking the credit for everything.
Yeah, see that? It's like marshmallows. I discovered that marshmallows was an Egyptian thing that only the pharaohs and gods could eat. But I bet you it was invented by some wee chef that was like going, this is nice, I'm going to keep it for myself. But then the whole, what's it called? The establishment took it and abused it, you know?
Down with the food elite.
God, that's what it would have been.
That's going to be the next revolution.
The food elite. We'll have a political party. Yeah.
No more establishment, blaming of whatever it is, like taking credit for food that you yourself didn't prepare.
Yes, absolutely. And it's like caviar, like, the rich are only the ones that eat caviar, but it would have been a poor person that would have discovered it.
So who comes up with the idea? Frog spawn. I bet you that tastes good with wine.
You go, see, we missed it, and all these things. And the guy's name would have been Boris, who discovered caviar. Boris somebody, and he would have been eating the fish eggs, and he would have been, I'm not telling anybody about this.
Well, why are you so happy, you peasant? Should I say? I'll give you 500,000 pounds. It's the fish eggs.
It's the fish eggs.
I swear it tastes good.
Blame it on the fish eggs.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the only reason there was a revolution happened in Russia, because they wanted fish eggs.
Sees the means of the offspring.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
sees the means of the pond. Anyway. Thanks again.
Thank you very much.
Good times. Thanks again, Colin. Really looking forward to it. Make sure you check out Petrichor. Make sure you check out the rest of his discography, and of course the new album when it comes out and the new singles whenever they drop. We'll be keeping an eye on it for those. But we're going to take it out now on Petrichor, the title track, which people who are keen and avid listeners, of course, have already heard before. But I mean, it's a great starter for the EP and a really, really emotive track that stood out of our attention. So we may as well play it again.
Thank you.
Too easy. Here it is. It is Petrichor, the self-titled song off Colin Lillie's recent EP of the same name. We'll be back soon with more chit-chat here on Bar Talk.
AustralianMusiciansRadio.com